Spoilers ahead. The movie begins with Vlad and his men, including Dimitru, Nikolai, and Andrei, finding the helmet of a Turkish scout in the river, leading them to believe that a Turkish scouting unit has trespassed into Transylvanian land. They conclude that the helmet came from the source of the river, Broken Tooth Mountain. Vlad orders Dimitru to return to the castle to alert the guards while he takes Andrei and Nikolai with him to track down the rest of the Turkish scouts and negotiate with them to leave their lands. They climb up the mountain and find a cave. A group of bats fly out and Vlad concludes that the Turks must be inside the cave because bats don't come out during the day unless something disturbs them. When they enter the cave, they come across rotting skeletons and crushed bones. Just then, they hear growling sounds and are attacked by a monster. The monster kills Andrei and Nikolai. It is about to kill Vlad, but he retreats to the entrance of the cave, where there is sunlight. Vlad notices that the creature is afraid of the sunlight. He manages to escape and heads to Castle Dracula. Vlad goes to see his wife Marina, and son, Ingrid. After putting his son to bed, Vlad tells Marina that he was attacked and lost 2 good men. He doesn't mention the creature, and tells her that it was wolves that attacked them. He tells her that he fears his son will also have to go fight for the Turks, if there is war. Marina comforts him, and tells him not to worry. The following day, at the Easter party, Hamza Bey, from the troops of Sultan Mehmed II, interrupts the festivities to collect a tribute of silver coins for the Sultan. He informs Vlad that in addition to the tribute of coins, the Sultan needs 1,000 Transylvanian boys for his army. Shocked, Vlad refuses and claims that the Turks stopped the practice of using child soldiers, but Hamza isn't taking no for an answer. Hamza Bey departs while Transylvanians remain stunned. Vlad's advisor tells him that they have no choice but to honor the Sultan's demands. Vlad decides to visit the Sultan himself since they used to fight in the army together when they were young. He tries to convince Sultan Mehmed that he will do anything but give him 1,000 boys, but the Sultan is adamant about taking the Transylvanian kids for his army. Vlad refuses and offers himself in exchange for 1,000 boys. However, the Sultan is not ready to negotiate and orders General Ismail to take the 1,000 boys including one more, Vlad's son. As Hamza Bey and his soldiers arrive to take Ingrid, Marina opposes and makes a scene, until Ingrid shouts that he will go willingly, and runs to Vlad. As he is about to go, Vlad quietly tells him to run back to his mum. Vlad draws Hamza's sword and chops off his hands, and kills him. He then kills off the rest of Hamza's soldiers, in retaliation. Knowing that his actions will cause the Turks to retaliate, he leaves and rides to Broken Tooth Mountain to ask for help from the vampire against the Turkish army. Entering the cave, the vampire attacks Vlad and tells him that those who dare enter his cave don't get to leave. Vlad responds that he is desperate and requests the vampire to help him save his kingdom. The vampire crushes a rotting skull and pours his blood into it. He tells Vlad that once he drinks it he will have the strength and the speed of 100 men. But his thirst for human blood will be insatiable, but if he can resist for 3 days, he will be returned to his mortal form. If he gives in to the temptation, and feeds on human blood, the vampire will be freed and Vlad will become immortal and will have to pay a heavy price. With no other hope, Vlad drinks the blood and collapses. He wakes up in a stream with the vision and power of a vampire. With his newfound speed, Vlad runs back to Transylvania. As he runs, he turns into 1,000 bats and flies. When he arrives at his castle, he witnesses the Turkish army attacking with swords and fireballs. Vlad reunites with his wife and son. He instructs his men to retreat into the castle, and not follow him, while he goes out to fight the Sultan's army. With vampire powers, Vlad fights all night and eradicates the army of 1,000 people, alone. When the Sultan learns about this, he orders an army of 100,000 men to march and decides to lead them himself. On the other hand, Vlad decides to leave the palace with his people for Kozia Monastery, a building high in the mountains that is too remote for cannon fire. Knowing that he will lose his powers in 3 days, he makes a plan to win the war quickly. On their way to Kozia Monastery, the people camp out during the night. As everyone is eating dinner, Vlad finds it challenging to fight his bloodthirst. So he heads out to the forest for some fresh air. A strange man follows him and tells him that he knows he is the monster from the cave. The strange man tempts Vlad with a glass of his blood, but Vlad throws it away and instructs the man to stay away from him. Meanwhile, the Sultan reaches Castle Dracula, where he sees the soldiers Vlad killed, impaled on a wooden spear. Marina learns about Vlad's powers, which restrict him from going in sunlight. He explains to her that he has to resist his bloodthirst for 2 more days, otherwise he will become a vampire for eternity. Upset, Marina decides to stand by him and tells the people that Vlad will not be coming with them to the monastery as he will do his own reconnaissance against the Turks. After the sun sets, Vlad transforms into 1,000 bats and rushes to invade the Turkish army. Sultan Mehmed's general, who survives the attack, tells him about Vlad's secret vampire powers. The Sultan decides to blindfold his army, considering people only fear what they see. The Transylvanians safely arrive at Kosia Monastery and get settled. The next day, as Vlad is avoiding the sunlight, Lucian sees him and follows him. He corners Vlad and tells him that he knows that he is a vampire. He tells Vlad to repent and offers to kill him. Vlad threatens Lucian, but Lucian tears a curtain, exposing him to sunlight. Vlad's skin starts to burn and peel off. The Transylvanians see what Vlad has become and they get terrified. They set the house on fire as Marina tries to stop them. Vlad comes out of the burning house and addresses his people, questioning their loyalty and gratitude. He tells them that they are alive because of him and his power. Later that night, with his vampire vision, Vlad sees the Turkish troops coming towards the monastery. He leaves Marina and Ingaraz in one of the towers and goes to fight. He summons thousands of bats to help him fight. Vlad makes the bats take the shape of his hands and uses them to attack the Turkish army. He leaves the tower and flies down to fight the soldiers. Meanwhile, the Transylvanians defend the entrance of the monastery. But the Turkish army turns out to be a diversion to let a few soldiers enter the monastery and harm the locals on the inside. The soldiers reach the top of the tower, where Marina and Ingaraz are. They push Marina off the edge and take Ingaraz captive. With his vampire hearing, Vlad hears Marina screaming and rushes to her, but it is too late. He tries to save her, but she falls off the edge. Vlad jumps after her, but he fails to catch her. As the sun is about to rise, Vlad is about to lose his powers. Marina tells Vlad to drink her blood in order to protect their son and the entire kingdom from slavery. He reluctantly agrees. Now that Vlad has fully transformed into a vampire, the master vampire is released from the cave. As he walks through the monastery, Vlad sees that his people are dying. He feeds them his blood so that they can get his powers and take revenge on the Turks. Vlad marches onto the Turkish army's camp, with his people, who now have vampire powers. He lets his people destroy the army, while he goes after the Sultan. He finds the Sultan in his tent, surrounded by silver. The silver affects Vlad's powers and weakens him. He sees Ingaraz in the corner, so he attacks the Sultan and they start fighting. As they fight, the Sultan throws coins and reflections of light towards Vlad, and manages to knock him down. Ingaraz watches him, lying there. He tries to break free of his ropes to help him. The Sultan goes toward Vlad and tries to stab him. But Vlad turns into bats again and stands up. He states that his name is no longer Vlad, but Dracula, son of the devil. He then bites Mehmed, instantly killing him. After sucking the blood of every human, the Transylvanians want Ingaraz's blood to fulfill their needs. Seeing his people betraying him again, Vlad holds on to his son, to protect him. As they are about to attack Ingaraz, Lucian arrives on time and shows the Holy Cross to the people, making them retreat. Lucian tells Vlad that he will take Ingaraz, and keep him safe. Vlad advises his son to go with Lucian and never leave his side. Crying, Ingaraz runs towards Lucian and leaves the battlefield. Suddenly, the sun rises, resulting in the death of every vampire, including Vlad. Ingaraz becomes the next ruler of Transylvania and continues Vlad's legacy. As Vlad is laying dead on the battlefield, the strange man who served Vlad his blood in the forest appears and cuts his hand, and feeds Vlad some of his blood. Vlad is reborn and becomes eternal. The movie then switches to the future, where Vlad talks to a beautiful young woman, named Mina, who looks exactly like Marina, while the master vampire watches and follows them from a distance. The end. Hope you enjoyed the recap. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to get more videos like this.